These are people that, in my opinion, hate our country. All I'm saying that if they're not happy here, they can leave. They can leave, and you know what? I'm sure that there'll be many people that won't miss them.
This is what Donald Trump thinks of people in Congress who are minorities and how he would prefer they leave because they don't agree with his policies.
I think a lot of people have been manipulated. I think...
By whom, though?
I think Trump, when he came out with his campaign, he came out as the anti-Obama. It has fascist overtones, if not straight-up fascism.
Green Day's Billie Joe Armstrong, not a fan of the former president either.
They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. They're rapists. Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States.
This is the rhetoric he uses to ramp up a racist base that badly wants to blame others for their problems instead of people like, say, Donald John Trump.
I think he blames he blames Mexicans and he blames Muslims. He wasn't called out on all of his faults and his problems, and the media kind of treated this whole thing like it's a reality TV show because that's the kind of person he is. That's the kind of campaign he wanted to run. I think people kind of got caught up in the game show aspect of the most serious job that someone could have on the planet.
Armstrong, like many who do not support the former president, can see how he dog whistles for votes.
They're all saying, oh, it has nothing to do with the flag. It's the way we've been treated. In the meantime, they're making $15 million a year. They shouldn't get the politics involved.
He's also not a fan of the keep politics out of music or keep politics out of sports jargon Trump spews.
The only people that should have a responsibility for thinking about social issues or politics or anything like that are the ones that aren't full of about it, you know, or the ones that aren't preaching. You know, I mean, if you're going to write a song, a political song, it's got to come from the same place where you write a love song. You know, it can't just be some empty rhetoric that you're in a bunch of finger pointing. You have to have yourself involved in it, you know. So it's like when I, you know, have a song like "Don't Want to Be an American Idiot," I'm talking about myself and what's going on in my country at the same time. How do I fit into it, and how do I feel alienated from it at the same time? So it's it's self-deprecating, but it's also trying to empower yourself.
And for good reason. Trump and Republicans have a great desire and even a demand for musicians to stay in their lane because speaking out could potentially hurt Republicans' chances when election time comes around.
For those who yearn for peace in the Middle East, for those in the Arab lands, for those in Europe, for those all around the world who yearn for peace, we must do everything we possibly can to stop the terror. There are a few killers who want to stop the peace process that we have started, and we must not let them. For the sake of humanity, for the sake of the Palestinians who suffer, for the sake of the Israelis who are under attack, we must stop the terror. I call upon all nations to do everything they can to stop these terrorist killers. Thank you. Now watch this drive.
Armstrong, though, has been in the game for a while now, as he explains his disdain for this guy, former President George W. Bush.
You know, after 9/11, I remember it just seemed like the country shut down. Everyone felt paralyzed. Nobody really knew what to do because I think America wasn't really, it's something that had never happened to us before. And then with all the, you know, with this asshole for a president that we had, was he instead of sort of maybe instead of looking at it as an opportunity to join the rest of the world, he alienated us from the rest of the world. And I think as a country we became isolated, and there was only one idea that people were getting overseas or wherever about what they thought of America, you know, and I felt so misrepresented. I was like, this is not a world this is not a country I live in, you know, this isn't my America. So, you know, then that's when like the song American Idiot came out.
These are facts that flew over many music fans' heads at the time, which shows how Armstrong has been political for decades now. There's also a good question to be asked. Why, yet again, are different outlets coddling Donald Trump?
There's been a lot of fake outrage and manufactured anxiety. And that comes a lot with the media. Like the way that CNN and Fox News and MSNBC, the news outlets that we are, they're cable news, treated this presidential campaign like a reality TV show. It's like Family Feud. You ever see Family Feud? It's just like they put two families apart and whoever answers the question, and then, there's music and people, and that's what it was like watching the news. And it wasn't news. They created Donald Trump. The media created Donald Trump. And he was a reality star. He was smart enough to know that if I just keep to my reality star hooks by eliminating one person at a time, just like I do in my show, and using vulgarity and saying stupid things about, minorities, then I'm going to get what I want, because people love an asshole.
Armstrong would share his insights on that very question.
Are you a racist? Do you hate Mexicans? The media calls us racist for wanting to build Trump's wall. They censor us, but it doesn't change the truth.
I feel like the Republican Party has turned into a white nationalist party. I think when people are uneducated and they don't they're not really reading into the bigger issue, I think they tend to want to have someone to shove, especially like a lot of white working class people. They want someone to blame if they don't have a job. So the way that Trump framed his argument was Mexicans are after your job. Muslims are coming to kill you. And that's who ended up being the biggest scapegoat. That's who I feel worse for than anybody else. I am a uneducated person. I don't have a high school diploma. I found my freedom through punk rock music. And I felt like that was the first time I was getting an education. I don't know exactly what the answer is, but I do know that Donald Trump is not the answer either.
But the generations of Black and Hispanic men, do you want to know what holds them down? Gangs. Being in gangs and dealing drugs is what holds them down. The lack of education is what holds them down. The gangs are holding them back. It's not white people. It's crazy.
I feel like America is in sort of a pop culture crisis, or even like a civil war. I think our civil liberties are at stake. And now that we have an entirely conservative government, I think our civil liberties are under attack right now, because we've made a lot of cultural progress when it comes to gay marriage, and climate change, and healthcare, and sort of, gender identity, and it's and I think that those are the blowback from that is this sort of white nationalist movement that Donald Trump started, and so that I think he grew a monster.
Hey, I appreciate you watching. Now, if you can, please do become a channel member by going to youtube.com/tytsports and clicking the join button. If that's too much for you, you can just go to tyt.com/join to become a member. It helps all of us out here at the Young Turks and keeps our network afloat. In addition, you could follow me on my socials on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Appreciate the love. Have a great day.